Good morning, Holly.
How are you getting on down there?
Oh, you know what? It's been a very interesting morning, I have to say. Very interesting indeed.
So what have you been doing? What have you been asking?
Well, we've been going up to men just randomly to see, you know, if they know where their prostate is and what its function is. And it has been absolutely incredible, some of the responses. Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Do you know where your prostate is?
somewhere down there, I think, but I wouldn't know exactly.
Down below.
No idea.
Between your legs.
Do you know what it does?
No. No.
It's... well, not really.
I'm not quite certain what it does.
No. Well, I'm only vaguely aware of its function.
I need to speak to my GP today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's a very good idea. And Jason, this is something that's important to you because it has had an impact on your family.
Yes, yeah, my grandfather was diagnosed with it. Fortunately, it was early detection, and that's what brought it to the attention of myself. We didn't really know what it was, you know, I mean, and funnily enough, you know, I'm a guy, and it's like I didn't even know what this was until it affected my grandfather. You know, and as I say, early detection, and he's fine now, which is great. But, you know, I just thought, it's something that really needs to be addressed because it kills over 10,000 men a year in this country.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do now, Jason. Thank you very much
Jason.
indeed, because we're joined by Phil Kissy, who was diagnosed with prostate cancer when he was only in his 40s, plus Dr. Chris to explain everything you need to know about it. And as we were saying, it kills over 10,000 men a year, so thank you both very much indeed.
You.
Phil, first of all, this was... gosh, thank goodness you were watching a TV programme.
This is true. I mean, I was on leave and I just switched on the TV around 10 o'clock in the morning, and I saw this city hospital programme, and it showed two patients, one that went for early testing and one that went late, and it left I was quite shaken up by it.
So much so that you, I mean, you also found out that the statistic that African Caribbean men are 3 times more likely than Caucasian men to develop.
That's correct.
Prostate cancer. But you were very persistent here because you had no symptoms that there was an issue.
No, I had no symptoms, but the programme made it very clear to me about awareness going forward, finding out about what the prostate is and getting tested.
Yeah.
So I went to my doctor and got tested, and the readings weren't high anyway initially, and I went back again, and you know, to sum it up, I went back a 3rd time, and I was referred to Guy's Hospital, where they did a test on me. They did a biopsy. And
well, you had
it.
the PSA, which is the prostate-specific antigen test. That's the test for this particular protein, which increases if you have the symptoms of prostate cancer. So you had the examination, the rectal examination. You had the PSA test, and you still, even though they said no, all fine with us, you still continued and went and had the biopsy. And then when what were you told when you had the biopsy?
Well, they told me that the good news, they found it. The bad news was I had one of the worst type, which was aggressive. And, you know, normal people go blank, but because I had already found out as much information prior to the results, I'd rang the helpline at Prostate Cancer Charity, I'd consulted with other people in the medical fields, I knew exactly how the information could be, whether good or bad.
Yes.
And then it was up to me to make a difference. And when I say make a difference, it's not being embarrassed about the result, but actually doing something about it.
Well, there are side effects to the operation, and you did have an operation.
That's correct.
And the prostate was removed.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, and we hear a lot of the sort of side effects of these operations, bladder dysfunction, erectile dysfunction.
That's right.
All of those things you suffered from.
Very much so, and I went public about it because I thought it was so important to get that message out. It's so important to discuss it with your family, your friends, and not hide away from it, because the key function is you want to live, you don't want to die. So if you want to live, you have to do something about it. And part of that journey is actually talking about it and then telling people what you're going through. I mean, after my operation, I was back in work in 13 days. and I was working as normal. My colleagues knew I had it. I had support from my managers and my colleagues, and also I had support from the hospital and the charity that I'm here promoting and telling you how good the work Prostate Cancer Charity have done.
And all the side effects are temporary. It's something that over time significantly changes again.
That's right. It's, you know, it depends on the individual. I mean, you know, mine was about 18 months, and 18 months of actually coming to terms that, look, I'm alive, I will take my medications, I'll get fit, and my body will be back one day, and it has.
Chris, they're not always temporary though, are they, the side effects?
Sorry?
The side effects are not always temporary.
No, no, and I mean the two distressing side effects are incontinence of urine, so you've lost control, and as you say, erectile dysfunction. Now, you know, that is a consequence of having a total prostatectomy, the gland taken out. But, you know, Phil had a good response. OK, it was 18 months, but, you know, at least you're free of those symptoms now. But some guys aren't. But, you know, of course, you've saved your life by having early intervention, and like all cancers, the earlier it's detected.
Well, I think most blokes in here, me including, were thinking, well, just how much do you have to do to find out whether or not you've got it? Because initially you went for the examination, and that's the examination that most guys shy away from, you know, because they're not happy having a finger stuck up your bottom. And then he's had the PSA test as well, all saying no, that's fine. So does that mean we've all got to go out and have biopsies before we find out whether we've particularly got this aggressive form?
No, I think first of all let's discuss the symptoms, because that can alert you to an enlargement of the prostate. Now, the prostate is about the size of a walnut, and it sits on the base of the bladder, and the bladder is like an inverted pyramid. So this is sitting at the bottom of the bladder. The tube from the bladder to the exterior, the urethra, passes through the prostate. So when the prostate enlarges, it compresses the urethra, and so you can get various symptoms. For example, if you're a fella over 50 who does it twice or more per night, that is pass urine, so you've got frequency of passing urine, daytime and nighttime. Also, when you're standing there to pass urine, you've got it's slow to start. Oh, here we've got the symptoms here. Frequency, slow to start, a poor stream when you're passing the urine, you may dribble at the end, you get the sense of urgency where you've just got to go, got to go. After you've passed urine, you feel as though you may not have emptied your bladder properly, or you might have blood in the urine or semen. So if you've got some of those symptoms, you might have an enlarged prostate. Not necessarily prostate cancer, it could be benign enlargement of the prostate. Then you'd go to the GP. The GP would do an examination of the prostate, which is a rectal examination. It's not painful, slightly uncomfortable, but the GP can get a hint of whether this is a malignant or a non-malignant
So
growth.
what are they feeling for?
When you feel a prostate that is enlarged through cancer, it's hard, it's craggy, and it's enlarged.
Okay.
Now then, you would need a PSA test, this blood test. Now the thing is, the PSA test can be raised in certain circumstances, and when you have a PSA test, you don't want it within 7 days of having a rectal examination, because that's massaging the prostate that can send the PSA up. You shouldn't have had sex in the previous 48 hours. You might have a urinary tract infection that causes your PSA to raise.
And when you have a PSA test, what do you do?
It's just a simple blood test.
It's a blood test.
And the results come back, and the results are gauged to your age, because as you get older, the PSA can rise. Okay. It's when the PSA is quite dramatically, you know, raised, then you'd be sent for a scan, ultrasound scan of the prostate, and then a biopsy. But Phil really persisted.
Well, that's what, which comes back to my original point. You know, yes, if you haven't got any of these symptoms, which you didn't have, so Phil didn't have any of those symptoms, and he was persistent, and then he found out that that what he had was life-threatening.
That's right.
So, in actual fact, unless you really are very persistent, how do you know you've got it?
Well, I think if you've got to consider, are you in an at-risk group? And of course, Afro-Caribbeans, 3 to 4 times increased risk. If it's in your family, if your father or your brother has had it, you're 2 to 3 times increased risk. And also, if you don't eat oily fish, you're 3 times at risk. And it's interesting, the prostate cancer is much lower in countries where there's a high fish diet, like Japan, Asia and Sweden.
we were worried when you walked in a moment ago
I
because you
know.
staggered in with a bottle. I thought, oh no,
We've lost the
Dr.
doctor.
Chris, what's happened to you?
Yeah, walking in with a bottle of wine.
It's early in the morning.
Yeah.
But actually, that's not wine.
It's not wine, it's blueberry punch. And there's some fascinating evidence behind this. They took human prostate cancer cells, grew them in mice, fed the mice the blueberry punch, which is, it's a cordial, dilute with water, and the mouse tumours shrank by 25% within 2 weeks.
That's incredible. Well,
Now,
that's one thing men can do is drink, isn't it? So they can't be ashamed to do that.
What are you saying?
Yeah. but also they did a study on men who had raised PSAs, and the men drinking this once or twice a day, the PSA levels came down.
Oh, it tastes
It's
nice.
incredible.
Yes, yes. There
Well,
are
look,
10 antioxidants in there. It's packed.
thank you both very much.